early to everything, but hey, let's get going here. All right. So before we get started in here, I just want to give you guys, if this is your first time here, kind of the disclaimers that this is a weekly live broadcast. I do this pretty much every Thursday evening. Sometimes things get in the way, I can't make it, or I forget there's a holiday coming up or something like that. But anyway, most of the time I'm here on Thursday evenings. I don't have a topic planned out. I do my best to respond to all the live chats that come in. So, ask your questions, leave your comments. I'll do my best to respond to them as they come in. If you want to carry on conversations between each other, that's fine. I'll probably skip those as we go through just so I can get to the people that are asking me questions or commenting to me. Let's see, the only other things that I ask is be family friendly. Don't be rude to people. Be polite, all those kinds of things. So, don't want to have to kick you out. Let me adjust this camera just a little bit. I feel like it's way too high. Okay, there we go. So let's get into this. We got Braffing King in here. Been in here for a while. Boy, you commented a long time ago. Well, sorry I was a little bit late getting to the live broadcast, but good to see you. Said my Flemish Giant gave birth to a first litter of 15. Awesome. Congratulations on that. Hopefully they're all doing well. Bubba, good to see you. Says, hey, Chris, hope everything's going well. Hope everything's going well with you, too. Val says, I'm about to butcher 9 roosters I have for meat. Well, good luck with the processing. Hopefully that goes well. I don't know if that's your first time processing or not, but, if it is, don't worry. It's not that difficult. You'll be able to do it, and hopefully everything turns out well. All right. Elizabeth wants to know, what are some good meat rabbits? Well, okay, good meat rabbits, that would be a New Zealand whites. Californias make good meat rabbits. Silver foxes, there's a bunch of different ones out there. You can't go wrong with a New Zealand white or a California, and I always recommend getting, if you're not planning on breeding to sell or any of those kinds of things, you're just breeding for meat for your own, then I think a New Zealand white doe, a California buck, or a California doe and a New Zealand white buck. I think that it's good to get 2 purebred rabbits, but of different breeds. You breed those together, you get that hybrid vigor in that first litter. And again, you don't have to use New Zealand's and Californias. Those are just probably the most common, the easiest to find, and they are good meat rabbits. You're going to do well with silver foxes, Florida whites, giant chinchillas do well. Those are the ones I can kind of come up with right off the top of my head. All right, who's this? Klaus from the Netherlands says, my quail are 6 weeks old, waiting for the first eggs. Also, your channel is just amazing. Better than reading a book about quails, and those feeders are fantastic, almost no waste. Well, awesome. Congratulations on your birds being about 6 weeks old. Assuming you got enough light, 14 hours a day of light, you should only have to wait a couple more weeks and you should start getting some eggs. So thanks for watching all the videos, all the kind comments there, and hopefully you get eggs really quick. Tanya, good to see you, Tanya. Thanks for joining. Sillamore says, hey, Chris and everyone from North Central Arkansas. Well, good evening to you. Thanks for joining. Ellen, hello from Miamisburg, Ohio. Is that it? Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for joining as well. And Sillamore also says, I got my first beautiful blue egg from my Celadon quail yesterday. So excited to have 95 birds in total now. Wow, that's a lot of birds. And congratulations on your first Celadon egg. All right, Klaus says, question, I live close to the beach. May I use the sand for quails? I baked it in the oven at 250 because it was wet. Can it harm them somehow? Sand is clear with small pieces of shells. And how is Max doing? Yeah, you should be able to use that sand. I don't think there's going to be any reason you couldn't use that sand. Look at that, somebody from Cassville. I'll get to that here in just a minute. Yeah, you should be able to use that sand. I think baking it in the oven at first, 250. I would even go a little higher than that, maybe 30 minutes, just to make sure you kill any bacteria or anything off in there. But honestly, I don't know that it matters that much. I wouldn't worry about it too much. I think it's going to be fine. Everything should be fine. As far as Max, he's doing fine right now. He wants to go outside. He's just sure there's something out there. He's sitting right here by the door. He's just sure there's something out there to chase, but he'll get all muddy and then he'll track it through the house. So I'm not letting him outside. Come here, Max. Come here, buddy. Come on up here. Say hi. Say hi. Can you guys see him? There he is. Look in the camera. Look in the camera. There it is. There he is. Okay, thank you. Okay, off. He's doing well. Off. Go on. Off. I know that's tricky, isn't it? Yeah, good boy. Yeah, he's doing well. His wound's completely healed up. He's still got a bald spot there. There's no hair over it, but it's a really small one. All right, Edgar, hello to you. And Sillamore says to somebody else, I'll skip that one, Kitty Kitty, or Kit Kat Kitty, says, hey, my baby bunnies are almost 8 weeks old. When can they go to their homes? Really, anytime. 6 weeks old is kind of the point where you want to start weaning them off. So 8 weeks old, they should be fine to wean from their mother. Send them off wherever you want to send them. They're perfectly fine at that point. But I wouldn't go anything less than 6 weeks old. All right, Connie says, I have 4 quails, that is 4 weeks old. Only 1 hen, 3 roosters. Do I leave 1 male in with the hen and take the other 2 males out until I get more eggs to hatch? Thanks, I love your show. Oh boy, that's a good question. You've got 1 hen, 3 roosters. That's even 1 hen to 1 rooster is an awful, I mean, 1 rooster is going to overbreed that hen, but you've got several weeks. You got about a month before you have to really worry about that. And if you don't have that much light, if you're not providing them with artificial light to get your daylight up, assuming you live in North America and the days are shorter like they are here, I mean, we're only getting, what times it get light? We're getting less than 12 hours a day of light. So if you're not providing any kind of artificial light, you probably don't have to worry about it because they're not going to be laying eggs and the roosters aren't going to be crowing and breeding and all those kinds of things. You can leave them all together. That'll be fine. But before spring, you're going to want to get that rooster to hen ratio down. Yeah, I think I said that the right way. 1 rooster to every 4 to 5 hens. I wouldn't even put 1 rooster with 1 hen. He's going to overbreed her. But again, you don't have to worry about that too much right now. As long as you're not providing them with artificial light, that is going to get them in the breeding mood, so to speak. All right. Grab a drink here. What am I seeing off camera here? Is that the right way? The other way. Oh, I got cords for the dehydrator over there. Made some jerky the other day. All right. Where are we at here? I lost track here. Caden, there we go. Caden says, hey, Chris, I know you've answered this in some of your other videos, but are you sure my quail will hold up all right during these frigid nights? As long as you give them as long as you give them a windbreak, a way to get out of the wind, they should be fine. We get, I know not everybody has weather like we do. Some of you guys get a lot colder than I do. It's been in the 20s every night this week. We got down to 16 degrees the other night. Quail are fine. It's not bothering them at all. They huddle together in the sandbox. They're not even really huddled that much together. They act like they don't even realize it's that cold out. So they're fine. I wouldn't worry about them at all. I've got viewers that live in Alaska or in very, very cold places and say the same things. As long as they can get out of the wind, they do just fine. All right. Where are we at here? Shelly says, I just processed my first quail tonight. Well, congratulations on that. Hope it all went well. Will says, been a while. Good evening, Chris. Well, good to see you again, Will. Thanks for joining. Ann says, hello to you. Hello to you, Sparks. Says, hello, Mr. Christopher, or Mr. Chris. Hope you're doing well. I am, thank you. Ricky, how long after my rabbit has babies do I breed them again? There's a lot of different ways you can do that. Some people do very intensive breeding, so they only wait like 2 weeks after the rabbit has had babies to breed them again. So that puts her having babies right about the time that her current babies are 6 weeks old, about time they're being weaned off. That's a little too intensive for me. I like to give my rabbits until their babies are just about ready to wean. So right about 4 to 6 weeks old before I would breed her again. 4 weeks old isn't a bad time. You can breed her. Then in 2 weeks, you're weaning off her current babies, and 2 weeks after that, she has her babies. So that gives her a 2-week break with no babies in the cage before she has babies again. And that's even just a little bit intensive. But if you're not doing that for prolonged periods of times, like, just constantly nonstop, you give her a break in the summer or something like that, then you should be fine doing that. So it's really kind of up to you. You could do it several different ways, but that's one way I like to do it. I don't like to go any shorter than 4 weeks after she's had her babies before I breed her again. That's just my thoughts. All right, Garth says, my dog spooked my quail bad last night. One hit its head on the top of the wire so bad it got scalped. We're hoping it makes it. What can you do to protect their heads from the top wire? That's a good question. I really don't have problems with that. I know that I know that it can happen, that birds can jump up, they can break their necks, they can do all kinds of things. I don't really have problems with that. So, I don't know if they're on the ground maybe, and that's what's causing them to spook. The other thing is, I don't know how tall your cage is. I don't know. I'm not sure I can answer this one for you exactly because it's not a problem for me. What you may want to do, though, is if it is kind of a constant problem, is if you could put in like a net layer that's a little bit below that and, fairly tight, maybe that far below the ceiling of the hutch. That way, if they hit that net layer, it's got a little bit of give to it. It's not going to, if that makes sense. You want to keep it fairly tight in there, but it's got a little bit of give, so when they hit that, it's not just a solid object, and that may make it a little bit easier. That's just right off the top of my head. Or, raise their cage up so the dog can't get to them to spook them again. But it's not really an issue for me. My quail do every once in a while kind of flutter around. They get a little spooked about something, but not a big issue. So I don't know. That's the best I can come up with right off the top of my head. Rhonda says, hello, hope you and your wife are well. Thank you, Rhonda. I appreciate that. Good to see you back in the live broadcast. We are well. Thank you. Chris says, my first live with you. Do you sell or ship your quail eggs? Well, first of all, thanks for joining the live broadcast. We appreciate you being here. No, I don't sell, I sell some quail eggs every once in a while, but not very often. It's not something that I do on a regular basis. I'm not set up to ship. In order to do that, I have to be NPIP certified and have to have a much bigger production than what I have. So I'm sorry, I'm not. Kansas City Quail Farms is a great supplier. Myshire Farms is a great supplier. Who else? Well, those are the two that come into mind right off the top of my head. Both of those will treat you very, very well. And just tell them I sent you if you do. Go to them. Tuna says, have a quail in the incubator with some eggshell stuck to its back. Bird is walking, but looks like it would hurt if I pulled it off. Should I leave it? Oh boy, that's a good question. Chances are it's going to be fine. Depends on how big that eggshell is. If you are going to remove it, what I would do is get the bird and wet that area down and let it soak for just a little bit. That should help to release that. But yeah, if you just go pulling that off there, you're probably going to pull some, I guess it's not feathers, but down out. Yeah, it's probably going to be a painful thing for them. If you can, it makes me think that your incubator humidity may be just a little bit on the low side. And that's another thing you could do. Is raise your humidity in your incubator a little bit, but you're gonna have to be careful with that. You don't want to go too high. You go too high with your incubator humidity and you can cause your birds to actually drown. And I would wait till I got all the other birds out of there before I did that, just so you're only dealing with that one bird. So if it's just a really, really tiny piece, you might just leave it on there. It's probably gonna fall off in a couple of days and be fine. All right, Elizabeth says, I have mini Rex and New Zealand and a Holland Lop. Nice selection of rabbits there. All right, Matthew says, hey Chris, Matthew from Northern Ireland. Awesome, thanks for joining. I appreciate that. That's one of the places I've always wanted to visit. I am mostly Irish, so I'd kind of like to go back and see, some of my ancestral homes. So, Jessica, hello from Cassville, Missouri. I was in Cassville, Missouri 2 weeks ago at my aunt and uncle's house, and I was helping them clean out their garage. My uncle there, if you're from Cassville and you've been living there for a long time, he used to play Santa Claus there and owns Starchman Insurance there in Cassville. So small world, huh? All right, Rhonda says, my quail aren't laying eggs, so I added a light. How long do you think it'll take after I add the light? A couple of weeks. Usually it takes a couple of weeks for them to get into the mood and start laying again, and they may be a little bit sporadic at first, but then they'll start picking up again. As long as the light is fairly consistent, they should start doing that. All right, Matthew says, we recently discovered that our 2 female rabbits were males. Well, you're not the only ones that have discovered that. That's not actually that uncommon at all. One of the things I almost always ask people when they say my rabbits won't breed, are you sure they're male and female? Because it's easy to make that mistake when they're young, especially. All right. Manuel says, can quail have problems with disease if I put them with pheasants? I'm not an expert on pheasants. I probably, there's probably a chance that there's some kind of disease that pheasants carry that quail can be affected by. I don't know what that is. There is a chance of that with chickens. Chickens can carry some diseases that doesn't really affect them but can affect quail. The odds are probably, who knows? It's pretty low, or you never know. I can't really tell you, yes, they're going to have problems, or no, they're not. I would be more concerned with the pheasants just, stomping on the quail or, killing them in some other way than I would with diseases. But hey, give it a try, see how it works. You might come up with some, who knows, it might work really well. All right, Jay says, I have a rabbit to have babies and they died. What is the problem in the mud? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time following this one. I have a rabbit that had babies and they died. What is the problem and the mother? Okay, I'm not sure what you mean by and the mother exactly, but I mean, there could be a number of different reasons why they died. It's too, I mean, I can't really tell you exactly what happened without knowing a bunch of details there. And even then, there's probably a little bit of guesswork involved in that. There could be a number of reasons. If the mother had them on the cage wire instead of in the nest box, it doesn't take much for them to chill at that point, and they can die easily from that. That's probably the number one reason, especially with new mothers, first time mothers. They just don't have their babies in the nest box. Now, if you catch them, if you notice, like you're going out and you're watching them pretty quick, and she had her babies on the floor, you can pick them up, put them in the nest box, and she'll still take care of them. That's fine, but you got to be pretty quick. It doesn't take long for them to chill and to die if she has them out in the cage floor instead of in the nest box. That's the most common thing I can think of. Without knowing any more details, I mean, it's just a shot in the dark kind of thing. All right, Penny says, hey, Chris, how are you doing? I'm doing well, thank you. Do you know what local restrictions for Webb City for quails and rabbits? I checked but didn't find what I was looking for. That's a good question. I don't know if there's any restrictions for them there. I mean, as long as you don't go crazy with it, and you keep them clean, I think you're going to be just fine. I know lots of people in Webb City that have had chickens, and if they can get away with chickens there, you shouldn't have any problem with rabbits. Now, when I was a kid, now granted this was back in the early 80s, or mid 80s probably, we had rabbits. We even had a couple of ducks at one point, and we lived right in town, and we never had any problems with that. But that was 20, oh my gosh, more than that, 30 years ago. So I mean, it was a long time ago, and the rules may have changed a little bit, but again, I don't think you're going to have any problems with quail and rabbits there. I know plenty of people that have had chickens, even people that have roosters in town, and if you can get away with that, you shouldn't have any problem getting away with quail and rabbits. Just the key is going to be don't annoy your neighbors. Keep them clean. Don't let the waste build up too much and be a nuisance to everybody around you, and you'll probably get away with them just fine. All right. Matthew says 2 males together can kill each other. 2 males. Oh, you're talking about your rabbits. Yeah, they could. Now, they can also bond and be just fine. Same thing with 2 females together. Females actually tend to be more aggressive than males do, and they tend to be more territorial than males do. But, sometimes they'll bond and they'll be just fine living together. It's probably the best idea to go ahead and separate them, though. In fact, I think it's probably best to house rabbits separate, don't house them together at all. I think it's best to house them separate. You can control the breeding that way. Rabbits are not really herd animals. They're solitary animals. You don't go into the wild and find groups of rabbits hanging out together. It's just not their nature. So I think they're better off having their own space. All right, my little patch from Buxton, Australia. That's another place I'd like to visit. Thank you for joining tonight. I appreciate it. All right, Cindy says, what is your favorite scissors for processing quail, and where do you get them? I don't have like a specific brand of scissor that I like. I like poultry scissors that you come apart, that you can take apart and clean very well, but I don't have a specific brand that I use. I think I just picked them up at like Walmart or something like that. I don't know that I'm sure there's some that are probably way better than others, but with quail, it's really not that hard. I don't know that I'd want to use like super expensive scissors on them either, because you're cutting through some bone and things like that. You're going to dull them out pretty quick. So I think I spent probably maybe $10 or less on the pair that I've got right now. But sorry, I can't give you a specific brand to pick out there. I think any of them are going to be fine. Excuse me. Stranger Things Are Coming says, hello, my brother. Well, hello to you. Thanks for joining tonight. Bob says, when picking eggs to incubate, do larger eggs produce larger birds, or birds that produce larger eggs? I don't know. I've tried to kind of test that out a little bit, but the problem is I can't tell. I don't know which birds came out of which egg. I don't know, later on in life, I don't know which birds. I really don't know if there's anything to that or not. Logic tells me that a slightly bigger egg would result in a slightly bigger chick at hatch anyway. But does that mean that they're going to be bigger when they grow up? I really don't know. I couldn't answer that one for you. I do know, if you get an overly large egg, it's probably a double yolk egg, and it's not, you don't really want to try to incubate that. They very seldom ever hatch. If they do, they usually don't make it. So those are probably best not to put in your incubator. Owen says, hi, how are you doing? I'm doing well, thank you, Owen. Matthew, Chris says, Chris, what is the best way to get water into the rabbits? That's a strange question. I'm not sure what the purpose behind that is, but put water in a bowl or let them drink it. That's the easiest way to get water into the rabbits, I guess. I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question, because if your rabbits are if they're refusing to drink, if that's the problem, then you've got there's some kind of issue there. Rabbits don't really, if they rely heavily on water. In fact, they'll refuse to eat if they don't have water. So I don't know if I'm understanding that one. Sorry, you may have to ask that a different way. I'm lost on it. Hello to you, Country Air, and Sillamore says y'all hit the thumbs up for our host Chris. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Hello to you, Fleetwood Patch. Country Air says, do you or can you make a video on how to definitely know your doe is pregnant? I had my doe bred and waited 36 days and nothing. Please help. That's a tricky one. I've talked about how to make your doe, or how to know if your doe is pregnant or not, but I don't have the only way I think you could definitely know if she was pregnant or not would be to take her to a vet and have her x-rayed, which is probably out of the question because it's expensive. You can try to learn to palpate, but that's very, very tricky. And it's not hard to mistake, feces and stuff in her bowels, for babies, what you think are babies. So palpating is really, after about 10 to 14 days of pregnancy, you would take the rabbit and feel underneath her belly, back towards the back end, press up pretty firmly, and what you're feeling for are little marble size, lumps in there, and that's a sign that she is pregnant. But again, it's really tricky to do. It's easy to not feel anything when there's something there, or think you felt something when there's nothing there. I don't have a way to for sure tell when your rabbit is pregnant. But in my experience, you get successful fall-offs from your buck, 2 or 3 of them at least, even 1 usually, but 2 or 3 of them at least. There's 85-90% of the time the rabbit's pregnant. So I just assume that she's pregnant until I find out that she's not. I'm sorry you had that problem. If you have that problem again, it could be, if you have multiple rabbits and you've bred that buck to other does and they produced, but this one doe didn't, I would try breeding her again. If she doesn't produce again, there's probably something wrong with the doe. It may be time to look at getting a replacement for her. I wish I had a better answer for you, but that's the best I can do, unfortunately. Banana Boy says, what causes quail to limp? Well, that would be like leg injuries or foot injuries or something like that would cause them to limp. One thing you might want to check for is bumblefoot. Look at the pads of their feet and make sure there's no large, swollen, it should be a pretty obvious thing, like an infected area on their foot. Bumblefoot is a pretty common thing in poultry, and it's caused by, they get like something in their foot. Think of it like a splinter or something like that. So a grain of sand, something like that. They've got a cut, they got something in it, and it became infected. That's what bumblefoot is, basically. So what you have to do to treat that is get whatever is in there out, get the infection out of it, which requires, probably lancing it open, digging whatever is in there out, and then, treat it with like antibiotic. Don't use anything with pain reliever in it, but like an antibiotic ointment, keep it clean. Those are the ways you would treat it. A lot of times, I'll notice my birds, like, they limp around for a couple of days, or I have one that limps around for a couple of days, probably injured its leg, jumping around the cage or something like that. But then they get over it and they're fine after a couple of days. All right. Uma says, one of our bunnies had one baby that died. The second day we bring it to the vet and they say one baby inside the tummy. I still did not born. What do we do? There's probably not much you can do or need to do, honestly. It's odd for them to have only 2 babies in a litter. I'm sorry you had to go through that. First of all, that's not enjoyable at all, but generally, if they still have one in them, they'll either pass it eventually or they'll just reabsorb it back into their body. And there's probably not much you need to do. I don't know I don't know that I'd breed that rabbit again, though. That's a really, usually I say give rabbits a couple of chances whenever they fail in their first litter, but only having 2 babies, not being able to, get the second one out right away. As long as she's not showing any other signs, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. But again, I don't think I'd breed her again. I think that's a bad sign. It's probably not a good idea to keep breeding her. But that's just my opinion on that one. I'm sorry I don't have a better answer for you. But again, just watch her close. There's probably nothing you have to do. She's probably going to be just fine without you doing anything. and just make sure she continues to eat, make sure she continues to drink just fine, watch her stool, make sure she's not got any diarrhea or any of those kinds of things. If all that's fine, she's probably okay and you don't need to worry about it. All right. Fleetwood says, act slightly rednecked. When starting out, do you recommend hatching quail or just buy full-grown quail? That's a tricky one. I would say it kind of depends what you're looking to getting into. If you've got experience with poultry, with hatching eggs and all those kinds of things, there's no reason you shouldn't just buy eggs and hatch them out. You're going to get better bang for your buck. You're going to get a lot more eggs for the money than you would live birds. If you're looking for, like if this is your first experience with any kind of livestock or, any kind of birds or any of those kinds of things, you might be better off buying some live birds, starting off a little bit on the smaller side, getting used to things, making sure that you've got your processes down, you know what it takes to take care of them. Instead of buying a bunch of eggs and then all of a sudden you've got 100 baby quail and you got to figure out where to house them and all those kinds of things. So I think I can't really tell you which way to go with that. But again, if you're all set up, you've got your cage space ready, and you're well prepared to handle that many birds or whatever, you get a better bang for your buck by buying eggs. But again, if you're not experienced at hatching eggs, you may want to get live birds because then you can get eggs and you can try hatching them and get your experience up hatching eggs first. To me, hatching eggs is not that difficult, but your first couple of times are going to be a little bit, you're not sure what you're doing yet. You're probably going to pay too much attention to them. You're going to fidget with them too much. It can affect your hatch rates. You could have poor hatch rate, whatever. And I'd hate for you to spend, because you can't just buy 10 eggs, unless you find somebody locally. But if you're ordering eggs in, you're usually ordering them in 50 or 100 or something like that. And you're going to spend 60, 70 bucks on that, maybe more. So those are a couple of things to consider on that. I can't give you the definite answer on which way you should go with that, but those are just kind of my thoughts on it. Hopefully that helps a little bit. All right, Country Air says palpating a doe basically is what I'm asking, I guess. Yeah, it's a tricky thing to do. It's not. I wouldn't count that. Go ahead and try. I'm not telling you not to try. Go ahead and try, but I wouldn't just completely count on your results or whatever you think it is for the first couple of times you do it. If you continue to do that time over time after time after time, you're going to get experienced at it and you're going to get much, much better at it. But, the first couple of times you do it, just, guess at what it is and then see if you're right. And then you can kind of gain experience that way, if that makes sense. All right. Erie says, why are my quail fighting if there are females and the same size? They are different ages, but I have them in a large hutch and it's only 2. That's just part of having birds. Birds have a pecking order that they're going to establish. Even if you have 2, if you have 4, if you have 10. There's going to be some types of picking on each other every once in a while. Some birds are more aggressive than others, though. Every once in a while, you get a bully in the flock, and they're just going to pick on everybody. And they can be pretty vicious whenever they get down to it. So if you're having problems with them getting to the point where they're, one of them's picking on the other one, watch their face. What they'll tend to do when they get overly aggressive with them is they'll go for the eyes. And a lot of times they'll peck an eye out, not completely out, but blind them in one eye, or peck all the feathers off their face. And that would be a good sign you need to separate them. You need to figure out which one's the bully and get rid of it probably. With only 2 of them, that's tough to do because they are communal birds. They do like to live in groups. But again, if you've got an overly aggressive bird, I personally call those pretty hard because I don't want that aggression in my flock. And I don't really have too many problems with fighting anymore. I have noticed that it does seem to be some of the, more exotic colors, I guess it is, of quail tend to be a little bit more aggressive, like the Texas A&M, the white birds, tuxedos. Tuxedos weren't too bad, but they were a little more aggressive than what I've got now. Italians, all those birds seem to be more aggressive than just the regular wild brown color of bird. So if you don't have those, that may be what you want to look into getting next. They tend to be more docile, in my opinion. All right. J Farm says, I am a mother rabbit, and I think that's probably I have a mother rabbit. I'm guessing you're typing on your phone, and it's probably doing some autocorrect on you. So I have a mother rabbit, and she had 12 babies. The mother died, and some of my is it a virus? Some of their, I don't know if it's a virus or not. I think you're saying the mother died, and maybe some of the babies died as well, and you want to know if it's a virus that's doing that. I don't know. I couldn't tell you if it's a virus or not. It's possible. But there could be a number of other things. There's no way for me to know that for sure. You'd have to probably go to a vet, have a vet check, and see if there's a virus going around. I wish I could give you a better answer. I just don't know. All right, Johnny says, or John, sorry, says, sorry I'm late. My bunnies' first litter are 2 days old now. Don't worry about it. We don't keep attendance here. We're not going to count you tardy or anything, but congratulations on the new bunnies. All right. John says, I think there's 6 of them. Left them in the box to stay warm, though. Yeah, you know, I understand that completely. I always try to leave mine in the box to keep them warm, too. But I do get in and check on them pretty much as soon as I can, right after they're born, because I want to make sure that if any of them have passed, I get them out of there. But also, you know, if you find any of them that are chilled, remember rabbits, you know, baby rabbits, they're not dead till they've got blood in their nails and they're dead. So a lot of times you'll find a baby rabbit that's been chilled, maybe out of the nest box or out away from the other babies for whatever reason, and it looks completely like it's lifeless. But, you know, you get that thing warmed up and it'll start squirming around and moving again. So I always try to check them as soon as I can, just to count them up, make sure everybody's okay. I don't have any dead ones in there because I don't want it to sit in there and, you know, go bad. Now, if it's really cold out, you're probably not going to have that problem, but you might. And I don't like to leave those in there. That's just my thoughts on it. But, all right. Oh, stretch my back. Sorry, back's starting to hurt. All right, Sparks says, rabbit question if you have time. Yeah, well, that's what this is for. So, yep, I got time. Says, we have a doe that started pulling hair 2 days ago. Still no babies, but noticed all day today she would not move from the nest box. Still no babies. Possible problem. Well, I mean, there could be a number of different things. She could be having a difficult pregnancy for whatever reason, having difficulty, you know, having the babies. If she's a first-time mom, she may just be a little bit unexperienced, doesn't know exactly what to do. You know, there's really not much you can do. I would leave her alone. If she's in the nest box, that's a good sign. It could be a false pregnancy. It could be, I mean, there's a lot of different things that it could be, but chances are she's just, you know, just getting ready to have her babies and you just need to give her some time. All right, Spencer says, FYI, this is a quote from Hatch Poultry website. Hatch Poultry Farms, LLC is closed, has filed Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Good luck getting eggs or money back from them. Amount $100. Man, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, I was partnered up with Hatch Poultry for a little while. I believe he was a good guy. I did hear that he was sick with cancer, so I don't know if that has something to do with it, but I know there's been a lot of complaints about that. I've since taken down any links to them to get the you know, the discounts through them. I don't really have any contact with them anymore. I'm sorry about that, guys. That's a terrible, you know, for a while, he was a pretty good supplier, and things went pretty well there. So, you know, do prayers for him that he, you know, pray for him that he is, you know, battling cancer, from what I understand. And, you know, that's not a place I wish anybody to be in. But again, I am sorry you're out money. If I could do it, I'd refund it myself, but I just can't, unfortunately. Thank you for the warning, though. Yeah, we're going to stay away from that. All right. Sparks says, or give her more time. Due date is the 23rd. Oh, you're talking about the rabbit. Yeah, just give her some more time. I wouldn't worry about it too far. I mean, we're only the 17th, so chances are she's just a little over eager. There's probably nothing to worry about. Yeah, John says they usually give birth on the 31st day. So, yeah, you've got plenty of time. All right, Rhonda says, is there any reason a male rabbit wouldn't be interested in a doe? He is pretty young, but I think 7 months old is old enough, right? It should be old enough, but, you know, some rabbits are a little different than others. You might give him a little bit more time and try it. Make sure he's not overweight. That's the most common issue whenever you have a buck that is not interested in breeding, is that they're overweight. Now, you didn't say what breed that rabbit was, so if it's a Flemish Giant or something like that, or has Flemish Giant in them, they take a little longer to mature than, you know, like your New Zealand Whites or your Californias. So you may just give him a little bit more time. That's probably the best bet. At 7 months old, he should be old enough, but may not be. So I'd give him a couple of weeks, maybe a month, try him again. Sparks says, I've got the date right. Thank you. Just looking at the reason she might not be moving out of the box. Not like her, just big change in actions. Yeah, I mean, like I said, she's probably, if she's a new mother, she's probably just a little confused, not sure exactly what to do yet. She'll probably get over that in a couple of days and start hopping around again, and it'll be just normal. All right, Elizabeth says, one of my rabbits gave birth and 2 out of 7 was developed completely. Why was that? She's a first-time mom. 2 out of 7 was, probably what you're saying is 2 out of 7 weren't developed completely. I mean, again, who knows? There's all kinds of things that can happen. Deformities happen. Are you sure it wasn't developed completely? Are you sure those weren't maybe just the first 2 that she had? She got a little over aggressive with cleaning them and maybe nipped off a leg or a toe. I mean, that happens sometimes. That could be it as well, especially with first-time moms. It's not incredibly common, but I would say it's more common with first-time moms than it is with experienced moms. So, that could be something to think about there. It could just be some kind of developmental disability. Keep track of that. If it happens again on the next litter, it's probably a good sign that she's not got great genetics. You want to replace her, but one-time occurrence, I wouldn't worry about it. It just, weird things happen sometimes. All right. Hello to you, Charles. Good to see you. Chato Cantu, I think it says, my doe was due 2 days ago, but she hasn't had. Should I keep her nesting box here or let her have it till day 40? Yeah, let her have it. Keep the nesting box in there. There's a good chance she's going to have them anytime now. It's not uncommon for them to go a couple of days past their due date. So I'd give her till at least day 36, day 37, like you said, maybe even day 40. All right. Country Air says trauma shears are best for processing quail on Amazon for $6. There's a good suggestion. Thank you for that. Penny says, I found the restriction for chicks, 12 square feet per bird, no closer than 100 feet from other buildings or neighbors. No restrictions on roosters, must be kept clean. Yeah, that's probably a good, I think you're the one from Web City, I think. You guys sometimes, especially when you're responding to me on something way down in the comments that I responded to earlier, you got to kind of preface that to keep, I forget what we're talking about. So it's just like out of the blue. I'm like, what are we talking about? But this one I think I got. I think you're the one that's talking about Web City. You want to know the restrictions on quail and rabbits there. And yeah, I think that's probably a good rule of thumb. You don't need to worry about 12 square feet per chicken. I don't think anybody's going to come by and check on rabbits, their square footage, or quail, their square footage. But as long as you've got them, closer from, not any closer to other buildings, keep them away from other buildings, your neighbors' buildings anyway, and keep them clean, you're probably not going to have any problems at all. All right, Cheto says, do you have any breeding tips for rabbits? Yeah, I got a bunch of them. I got a whole bunch of rabbit videos. I'm not sure, that's such a broad question. I don't know that I can answer that for you, but take the doe to the buck. Don't ever take the buck to the doe. But does get very territorial. They can really do some damage to a buck if you throw a buck in her cage. So you always want to take the doe out of her cage, take her to the buck. Leave them together for 15 or 20 minutes. If you don't have successful breeding, what you're looking for is a fall off. The male will mount the doe. Hopefully she lifts for him. He'll breed successfully, and then he'll clinch up and fall over. That's successful breeding. It's a little bit humorous. If you've never seen it before, it's kind of funny. Look for him to get 1 or 2 or 3 of those fall-offs in 15, 20 minutes or so. If she's refusing to lift for him, after 15, 20 minutes, take her out, put her back in her own cage, try again the next night, or try again that evening, try again the next morning, that evening, whatever. Just keep trying 4 or 5, every day, morning, evening, morning, evening, morning, evening for 4 or 5 days. If that doesn't work, you can put her in a pet carrier, drive her around the block in your car, 2 or 3 times, bring her back and put her in the male's cage and see if she'll breed. I don't know why that works, but everybody reports that it does. So there's a couple of things there. That's really fast, but unless you got something specific, it's hard for me to answer that question. All right, Fatih says, hey Chris, from Turkey, Chris. Hopefully I pronounced your name right. If I didn't, I'm sorry. Says, I've learned everything about quail from you. I have 20 now, incubated myself. God bless. That's awesome. Congratulations on all your birds and your success there, and I'm glad that my videos have been helpful for you. All right, Glow says, good night, Chris. Hope you're doing fine. However, my doe kits are approximately 3 weeks old. When do I wean them? It is when they start eating their mom's pellets. No. they probably already started eating their mom's pellets. They do that pretty early on, start to nibble on them a little bit, and you're going to see them start eating a lot of their pellets in the next couple of days, next week probably. Really, you don't want to wean them before 6 weeks old. 6 weeks old is kind of the magic number. So right at 6 weeks old, maybe a little bit older than that, just a couple of days older than that, then you can start weaning them off the mom. And I always take like half of them off the mom at one day, and then the other half the next day. But don't do it any earlier than 6 weeks. All right, Caesar says, can I mix standard Coturnix quail with meat makers, Pharaohs, Jumbos? Yeah, Coturnix quail, you can mix them all together. You can do whatever you want. They're all the same species. They're just different breeds, so to speak, and they'll interbreed just fine. You're not going to have any problems with that. Now, what you may end up doing is, you've got meat makers and jumbo Pharaohs. If you're breeding those with standard Coturnix quail, you're probably going to end up with smaller birds over time as opposed to the bigger birds. So, that may be a reason not to do that, but you can do it if you want to. All right, Tuna says, Cindy, talking about says, I use medical shears bought off Amazon, got a 2-pack fairly cheap, and they work well. That's a good suggestion as well. All right, Chato says, can you make a video on how to make a automatic watering system for rabbits? I have done videos on that, actually. Probably need to do that again. It's been a long time, and a lot of people probably, that's very old video, but I do have a video on how to make an automatic watering system for your rabbits. It's not very complex. It's pretty simple to do. So if you can find that video, you can, watch that. Otherwise, it's probably going to be a little while before I talk about that because it's wintertime. So I'm not using the automatic watering system. When spring comes back up, maybe I don't know if I probably don't need to rebuild it necessarily, but who knows? Maybe I'll readdress that in a video sometime soon. All right, Bubba says, Chris, I have one cage that has 5 females and 1 male. When I feed and water them, the male will fluff up and fight my hand to protect his harem. So you have one cage that has 5 females and 1 male. Okay. Yeah, sounds like an overly aggressive rooster there. I get that happens sometimes too. Some of my birds, they get kind of, maybe it's the rooster. Sometimes it's the hens. Sometimes when you stick your hands in there, they'll come up and just kind of peck at your hands. But they've never done any damage or anything like that. I always find it kind of funny. All right, Robert says, do only the male quail make noises? No, but the female noise is pretty quiet. It's real quiet. You're not going to hear it very often, and it's not very loud when they do make a noise. So primarily, yeah, the males are the ones that make the noise. All right, Sparks says, Bubba, I have some that do the same, and then says to Robert that she has females that make noise too. Yep. Shelly says, what's the general finished weight for a quail at butcher? I don't know. I've never weighed a quail at butcher. They're not huge. So I don't know. I'm sorry. I can't answer that one for you. Robert says, mine are just 8 weeks old and only a few are being really talkative. Yeah, a lot of that has to do with the amount of light that they're getting. If you don't have 14 hours a day of light, they're not going to be super talkative, and they're not going to be laying eggs yet. They're not going to be breeding, any of those kinds of things. Sometimes, when you have babies, even though you don't have that much light, when they first come of age, they'll get a little bit excited, I guess, and talk a little, crow a little bit, and then they just calm right down because it's not breeding season for them. The amount of light is what determines whether they're going to be in breeding season or out. So, unless you've got that 14 hours a day of light, and right at 8 weeks, that's just right at the verge of when they're becoming sexually mature. So you may, if you've got that much light, you may just have to give them another week or two. All right. Sparks says, starting to become mature, I've noticed my males are a lot louder. Yeah, they can be, but also what they do tend to do is they tend to calm down over time too. So as your older birds, they're not going to be nearly as talkative as your younger birds that are just coming of age. They do tend to calm down just a little bit as they go. All right, Emerald says male quail are very loud. You see, I don't think they're that loud. If you had them in your house, yeah, that's pretty loud. But they sound like a songbird to me. I don't think they're any louder than just the birds that are out in the neighborhood, singing, but I guess that's subjective. All right, Mr. Cheris says, hi, Chris. God bless. It's been a while since I've been here. live. Just wondering what happened with the chickens. Oh, the chickens are in the freezer. Thanks for joining again, by the way. Good to see you again. But yeah, the chickens are all in the freezer. They only, they were, it was a meat run of chickens, so they were only around for 8 weeks, and then we processed them and put them in the freezer. Had one for dinner last week. All right. Eric says, have a kid struggling to live. We would like to hand feed it. Any suggestions for a good recipe for replacement milk? Mother seems to ignore it. Yeah, and Sparks has got a good suggestion. Says kitten milk. That's what we use. That's a good suggestion. Goat milk replacement or kitten milk replacement. You should be able to get that from a local farm supply store. Good luck. I mean, it's difficult to hand feed rabbits and get them to live, but maybe you'll have good success with that. Hopefully it works. And Sparks goes on to say powder works well because it lasts longer. Yep, that's a good formula that you mix up. All right, Immorali, I think it is, says, I've already said your name once and I probably got it wrong. Says, hi from North Cyprus. All my rabbits got killed by a wild fox that broke into the pen, but my quail shed was too secure for it, thankfully, but I no longer have rabbits. I'm sorry to hear that. We've had a fox around here that's kind of been pestering my birds a little bit, but he hasn't been back he's been back. I've seen him, but he hasn't been able to get to the birds lately, so it hasn't been a big problem for me. But yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Spencer says, you can send your check to me in a Christmas card. I don't know what we're talking about there. I'm not sending you a check, Spencer, no offense, but that would get out of hand pretty quick. So Jay says, how many days a famous giant? How many days a famous giant? How many days what? I think you're talking about Flemish giants, but I'm not sure what you mean by how many days a Flemish giant. I'm sorry, Jay, I'm not sure what you're asking there. Okay, so Mr. Shirez, I think is that, says, never mind, you butchered them. Will you be doing chickens again? Yeah, I'll probably do some more in the spring. It's pretty easy. They're not difficult to raise. They only stick around for about 8 weeks. How are we doing on time? Yeah, we got about 10 minutes left. They only stick around for about 8 weeks, so it's not a big deal to raise them. I mean, you can do it really, really quickly. It's cheap. It's cost effective. They're really good chickens. I mean, it's a lot better than going to the store and buying chicken from the store. Taste wise, you know where they've been raised. I mean, we'll probably do them again. All right, grab one more drink there. Where are we at here? Elizabeth says 5 was born dead and 2 of them alive. The 5 that were dead looked like they weren't developed fully, and the 2 that were alive were. Okay. I think you're talking about the ones that die. I think we talked about that. Yeah. So, yeah, that very well could be that they just didn't develop fully, and it could be some kind of birth defect or, there could be, who knows. Again, I wouldn't worry about it too much unless it's a common occurrence. If it happens again, then it's something to be concerned about. Otherwise, just chalk it up to bad luck that one time and go on. All right, Glow says, also, when my doe had given birth to 2 of the kits were not moving. They were looking lifeless. I picked them up, and their head were hanging downwards, and I depose. I didn't know about checking their males. Oh, okay, so I got you. I understand what you're saying there. Yeah, you had baby rabbits. There were 2 of them weren't moving. They looked lifeless. You picked them up and you got rid of them because you thought they were done, right? And that's okay. Don't beat yourself up over it. I completely understand how that can happen, and it's going to be, sometimes it's really difficult. And that doesn't always work. Warming them up doesn't always work, but you always try that first because you might get them to come back. All right. Greg wants to know if I can make a video for you on how to build the stand that holds the rabbit cages. You're talking about my rabbit shed? I've had a lot of requests for that. Unfortunately, I'm not sure how to make a video about how to build it without building it. I don't need another one. So I'm going to try to figure that out, though. Maybe, I don't know. Whenever it's not very complex. It's just, it's pretty simple. But yeah, I'll see what I can do to give you guys a better view of that and show you how that's built, and then maybe you can kind of figure it out from there. I'm not good on building blueprints. I tend to just kind of build things. I may draw them out on a piece of paper. That's about it. And then just build it. And I kind of stick build them. Is what we call it around here, which means I just kind of, as I'm building, I'm like, oh, I need another board across there to brace it. So I do that, But I'll see what I can do to give you guys a better view of that. It's pretty simple. It's really just a frame, just a simple, frame. It's got one board that goes all the way across the front, a couple across the back. I got a couple of crisscrosses on the sides to keep the legs from going in and out, like that. And then the walls are just tarps. I just stapled tarps up there, or screwed them up there is what I did. But that's it. All right, Sparks says, congrats, great first litter. I don't know where we're talking to. Lost track there, sorry. Jessica says, careful, it doesn't take long for 20 quail to become addictive. That's true. Started hatching eggs in October, now I'm over 400 birds. Oh my goodness, that's a lot. That's a lot of birds. I think I'd process some if I were you, but hey, do what you want to do. Becky says, I bought poultry shears. Yep, I use poultry shears too. Sparks says, started with 30 eggs and now I have 200 birds. Okay, Jay says, how many days does a Flemish Giant stack to open? Stack to open. I'm sorry, Jay. There's something going on with your autocorrect or something that's causing your sentences to kind of get garbled up. I'm not sure what I understand you're asking about how many days does a Flemish Giant, but I don't know what the rest of that is. I mean, if you're asking about like how many days till they give birth, it's still about 30, 31 days, like almost all rabbits fall into that. If you're asking about how long until they mature, like sexually mature, you're looking for more like 8 to 9 months, somewhere right around in there usually. Hopefully that answers that for you. Grayson says, hi, how are you? I'm doing well, thank you. Spark says, I used a toilet float hook to a water hose in my bucket, and now I don't have to water at all. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. I've never had a hose that didn't leak a little bit while it was on. That's why I haven't done that before, because I just don't want to waste the water. My water bill would go up like crazy. The only other thing I would say about that is, don't get overly confident with that. Check the water. Make sure that they're getting water, and check it every couple of days, every other day, because that can give you a false sense of security. And if something breaks and the water's not traveling through the lines for whatever reason, then and you don't even know it, it could be too late before you figure it out. All right. Jessica wants to know, what is my favorite recipe for quail? Boy, there's a bunch of them. One of my favorites is to cut the breast off the bone, so you end up with 2 pieces of breast. And then, put some blue cheese in them, or cheddar cheese if you like cheddar cheese. Wrap them with bacon. Brush them with like Frank's Red Hot, like buffalo wing sauce or barbecue sauce, and then bake them until the bacon's done, basically. That's a really good way. They make little poppers, basically. Really, really good that way. I like them that way. But I also like just, whole quail cooked. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it. I've done quesadillas with them. Cut the meat off the bone and just like treat it like you would chicken and make quesadillas with them. They turned out really good that way too. So there's a couple ideas for you. All right. Aaron says, how often do you suppose to check on new baby rabbits? Oh, excuse me, I'm yawning right here. How rude. I'm sorry. Says, how often do you suppose to check on new baby rabbits? My little girl wants to check on them 10 times a day. That's probably a little much, but I don't think it's going to be that big a deal. I check on them like once a day, maybe. Sometimes I'll skip a day and only check on them really like every other day. You don't have to check on them a ton. 10 is maybe a little much, but if the mother's tolerant of it, she probably is, then it's not a problem. All right, Cheto says, I got my female rabbit at a pet store, I think is what you're saying, when she was a year old, and she doesn't produce any litters. How do I know if she's spayed or not? Well, chances are she is. If you got her from a pet store, she probably is. How to know for sure? I'm not sure, unless you can see a scar or something on her belly. I don't know how else to tell for sure. Emerali says, quails are addictive. I started with 75 chicks, and now I own the biggest quail farm in North Cyprus. I love quail so much. Grayson says, what are you talking about? I just joined. I don't know. What? Did I say something? I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I lost track. I don't know what I said. Maxim wants to know, what state are you in? I'm in Missouri, southwest Missouri. Right at the corner of Oklahoma and Kansas. Arkansas isn't too far south of us either. Grayson says, I have goats and cows. Awesome. Wish I could have some goats. I kind of like goats. Becky Miller says, my quail roosters are right next to my bedroom window and wake me up in the morning. Yeah, I imagine they would. Grayson says, I live on a farm. Awesome. John says, goat is delicious, and so is cow. I agree. Both of them are pretty good. Hey, hush. No. So, sorry, talking to the dog. Spark says, they aren't terribly loud, and I love the sound, but yes, the teenage roosters definitely make more noise than the older ones. They do for sure. Grayson wants to know what animals I have. Let's see, I have my dog, I have quail, and I have rabbits. That's it right now. Scott says, let's see, will quail lay eggs in all temperatures? I've heard they need 12 hours of light. They need about 14 hours of light. But yeah, they'll continue to lay no matter what the temperature is, as long as they have enough light. Jason wants to know, how do you keep the poop? How are we doing on time? 4 minutes left. Oh, my wife's home. This is going to be loud for a minute. Jason says, how do you keep the poop from sticking to and accumulating on the hardware cloth, the quail, and what is the best way to remove it? Make sure you have the right size, 1/4 inch, half inch hardware cloth. 1/4 inch is going to be a little too tight of a weave, and the poop won't fall through. I think the best way to remove it would be wait till it dries up and then brush it maybe with something like a steel brush or a stiff bristle brush. You can just brush it off. It should break up and fall through, but you may need to get slightly bigger squares, 1/2 inch hardware cloth for the floor. All right, John says I double checked. There are 7 kits. Awesome. Congratulations on that. Emerali says, Scott, I need to keep my lights on a timer to ensure 14 hours of light to maximize production. Yep, I do the same thing. My light's on a timer. All right. Spark says, I did notice my quail slowed down on egg production. Then I added light, gave them a couple of weeks, and they started laying more. So yes, if you can give them 14 hours of light, they will lay better. Absolutely. Jay says, how many days does a famous saying baby's high stakes all be? I don't know what that means exactly, Jay. I'm sorry. Are you using maybe a translate service? I don't know if you're in America or somewhere else. I thought it was probably like some kind of autocorrect initially, but now I'm wondering if you're using a translate service and it's giving you really bad translations, because it doesn't make any sense. I'm not sure what you're asking me. I'm sorry. Beardless Madness says, so my female bunnies had babies, and in about a week she killed all 5 of them, scattered them about the cage. Can I breed the female again? Yeah, you absolutely can. Chances are, there could be a number of things that happen there. I'm sorry for that. I'd try to breed her again. If it happens again, replace her. Get a different rabbit. You don't want to deal with that every time. All right. Crazy for Homesteading says, it is okay to keep my doe and her kids inside the garage when she gives birth. It's a little warmer inside our garage, warmer than 30 or below. I'm brand new to rabbits and I'm super nervous. Yeah, it's okay. You can keep them in the garage if you want to. I will tell you that, as long as she has them in the nest box, they're probably going to be fine. I've had babies in below 0 temperature, Fahrenheit, and I don't think I've ever lost one to the cold, except for if they got out of the nest box. That's the only time. But other than that, I've never had too many problems with them at all. They do just fine. All right. Max wants to know when the stream ending. Right about now, actually. We got about 1 minute left, and then I got to end this one. So I'm going to run through these last couple of comments pretty quickly, and then we'll wrap this one up. Spark says, yes, they should be fine. What part of the country? Oh, he's asking you, Crazy. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Renija? I don't know. Says, I just started breeding quails, and thank God for you. Do you have any rabbits for sale? No, I don't have any rabbits for sale, unfortunately. I don't sell rabbits very often, but occasionally, but not very often. Delta says, love your videos. I'll be getting quail and rabbits this spring. Casper wants me to wait. Get your comment out there quick, Casper. I got to go, but I'll hang on for just a second. Sylmore says, Chris, thank you so much for another great Q&A. You rock. God bless you and yours. You too. Thank you for the kind comments. All right, Casper says, I have quails that are being eaten by something, and they have been taking their legs from the bottom. What do I do? Put up some electric wire around it to keep whatever it is going away. Put up a trap to trap it, or maybe even put up another layer of hardware cloth underneath your floor, maybe that far or so below, so whatever it is can't get up to them to grab them and pull them through. I had a fox doing that to mine, so it did a lot of different things. All right, Jay. Jay, I think what you're asking is how many babies does a Flemish Giant? Oh, how many days for them to open their eyes? Is that what you're asking? How many days for their babies to open their eyes? Usually, you're going to have their babies open their eyes around 6, 7 days old, sometimes around 10 days old. That's pretty standard for all of them. So that should stand true for the Flemish Giant as well. Hopefully that was what you were asking, and hopefully I got that answered. So, all right, guys, I got to wrap this one up for tonight. Thanks for joining. We'll see what next week looks like. Next Thursday is Christmas Eve. I don't know yet if I'm going to be on for a live broadcast or not. We'll see. But thanks, guys, for joining tonight, and hopefully we'll see you next week. God bless each and every one of you, and good night.